The year is 1984. A young Hakeem Olajuwon has just been selected for the Houston Rockets at the #1 pick. I mean, this was expected. In the era of the big men, this guy was one of the best. But now, it's the Portland Trail Blazers on the clock. This was an obvious decision, even at the time. Michael Jordan was getting ready to head to the stage when suddenly they called the name of Sam BOWIE. But BOWIE was never meant to be as high up as he was. A single lie had reshaped the entire NBA. What is good, everyone? If you're enjoying the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and let's talk about this iconic moment for a second. Not a lot of people talk about this when talking of Jordan, since it was so overshadowed by his greatness and the game that he played. But this moment could have changed the league as we know more than we could have ever thought. Sam BOWIE, a 7'1", 235-pound center who was incredibly gifted. Basketball was in his family. His father had played 6 seasons for the Harlem Magicians when at age 45 he had suddenly died when a cyst on his lung burst. I know, pretty gruesome stuff. But before that, BOWIE was living with his grandmother after his parents split until he had begun to attend college at Kentucky. This kid was crazy talented. He was only 19 years old when he was playing for the USA team at the Olympics. Unable to compete in the Olympics due to the boycott, Team USA played a series of games against NBA All-Star teams in various US cities, ending with a 5-1 record. The games were labelled the Gold Medal Series. In the 6 games against the NBA All-Stars, BOWIE was Team USA's second leading scorer and leading rebounder and shot blocker, averaging 11.6 points, 6.9 rebounds and 2.3 blocks. BOWIE was 19 years old while playing. This was huge. A 19-year-old playing against NBA All-Stars, the best of the best. Imagine that happening today. BOWIE's sophomore season saw him averaging 17.5 points, 9.1 rebounds and 2.9 blocks per game. He was named a third-team NCAA Basketball All-American by the Associated Press, and in 1981 he set and now shares the Kentucky record for most blocked shots in a game, with 9 against St. John's. However, BOWIE began sustaining injuries in the third to last game of his sophomore season against Vanderbilt. BOWIE went up for a dunk, but came down off balance. He landed with most of his weight on his left leg, saying that he felt pain but initially tried to play through it. This was only the beginning of one of the worst injury-ridden careers ever. After the 1980 to 1981 season, a stress fracture in his left tibia was discovered. The injury caused BOWIE to miss the entire 1981 to 82 seasons. The stress fracture did not heal completely, and BOWIE sat out the entire 1982 to 1983 season as well. Things weren't looking good for him. With these terrible injuries, it was very unlikely he would be drafted highly, since he was almost guaranteed to have an injury when he joined the NBA. Doctors at first thought the pain in the left leg was due to shin splints, which are not serious at all and are easy to heal. But just before the season in 1981, new x-rays revealed BOWIE had a stress fracture that he had been playing on. This in contrast is much more serious and takes a long time to repair. He was in a cast for 44 weeks, but after removing the cast, the injury did not heal properly. BOWIE had to have it surgically repaired with a bone graft. As his class had graduated, BOWIE applied for and was granted an NCAA medical redshirt to allow him another year of college eligibility. This essentially meant he was still eligible to play due to injuries. BOWIE returned for the 1983 to 84 season, having not played in 2 years. He played in all 34 Kentucky games and averaged 10.5 points, 9.2 rebounds and 1.9 blocks. So clearly he was pretty damn good. So why shouldn't he have been so high? As I mentioned before, his career was riddled with injuries, mainly towards his left leg. His first year in the NBA was going very smoothly. Bowie played in 76 games and averaged 10 points and 8.6 rebounds, earning a spot on the NBA All-Rookie team. He was proving that he was a player that everyone thought he was, and everyone knew that he was a force to be reckoned with. But then something horrible happened. In a game against the Bucks, Bowie and his teammate Jerome Kersey got tangled up going for a rebound, and as they landed, Bowie's left tibia broke and he was carried off the floor in a stretcher. His injuries were beginning to catch up to him. But fast forward to the next season and Bowie was back. 5 games into the season, and yep, you guessed it, a crazy and brutal injury happened. So brutal that I have to blur it. You really do not want to see it. But for those who do, you can find it in the description below. In the season's 5th game against the Dallas Mavericks, Bowie ran up for a jump hook shot. As he went up, his legs buckled underneath him and Bowie fell to the floor. He suffered a season-ending fracture of his right tibia. Bowie compared the feeling to having his leg chopped by an axe. That is insane. Probably up there with some of the worst injuries. Clyde Drexler commented on this saying it was not a pretty sight. He went to make a move, fell and threw the ball down hard off the court. I remember seeing part of the bone sticking out of his leg and how he was beating the floor over and over with his fist. At this point, his career was looking uncertain. Bowie had to have surgery with 3 screws being placed in the bone to keep it together. But 2 screws did not hold and another operation was needed to put in 3 new screws. During pre-game warm-ups for a preseason game with the Cleveland Cavaliers, Bowie began feeling intense pain in his right leg just walking. Bowie was carried off the court by his teammates and was diagnosed with a hairline fracture of his right tibia. On March 29, 1988, Bowie had surgery where he received a graft from his hip bone and had a metal plate with 10 screws permanently attached to his right shin. The injury effectively sidelined him for the next 2 seasons. He missed all of the 1987-88 season, as well as the first 62 games of the 1988-89 season. In total, Bowie played 63 games out of a possible 328 during his last 4 seasons in Portland. After Portland, he was traded to New Jersey, where he had to start making an impact, otherwise his career was over. Luckily for Bowie, he averaged 12.8 points and 8.2 rebounds per game and never missed more than 20 games in the season. His best season was his first with the Nets, where he averaged double-double with 14.7 points and 10.1 rebounds per game. Bowie also hit a career high in points per game in 1991-92 with 15 and played a career high 79 games in 1992, averaging 9.1 points per game and 7 rebounds. After the 1992-93 season, Bowie was traded for Benoit Benjamin, being sent from New Jersey to the Los Angeles Lakers. However, Bowie's leg injury problems came back. Bowie played in 92 games in the 2 seasons combined, starting in 17 of them. Although Jerry West, the team's general manager, wanted Bowie to continue playing for the Lakers, Bowie decided to retire from professional basketball after the 1994-95 season. And it sounds crazy, but after that he started doing harness racing. His story was tragic, but luckily he had success with the racing and now has a family and lives peacefully. But remember when I said that a lie had changed the NBA? Well, Sam Bowie had lied to the doctors in order to be drafted higher. When the doctor had tapped his left tibia, he said that he felt nothing, even though he was in clear pain. But it makes sense. He was having so much success but was being overshadowed by the prodigy that was Michael Jordan. So in order to leave his shadow, he had to be drafted higher. But by lying to the doctors, he could have avoided all the injuries. He still would have been drafted, but he also would have got the help he needed. Also, Michael would have been drafted to the Portland Trail Blazers. But that's a whole new video in itself. Just to end off, I'll show you this quote from Bowie. You know, I go speak and visit at hospitals a lot. And not to sound mushy, but I've seen 7, 8, 9-year-old kids who have had their legs amputated because of bone cancer or a car accident. That's when it puts things into perspective. There's a kid who wishes he had a leg to break. That's when I realize how lucky I am, and I can't complain about the hand I've been dealt. Sure, I've had my share of surgery and broken bones, but these things were meant to be.
BOWIE.